in another tournament, he's now 0-1 in this tournament.
Sure.
So he's not lost, but he's already 0-1. Swiss format, again, might be perfect for him. Osher really struggled the past couple of premierships. Now he's in Swiss format, he's 2-0 up. So maybe we'll see Greensheep kind of come out of his shell. But we're looking again at either Greensheep or Cipher joining Jambray at 0-2.
That's not pleasant
and honestly,
for any of them.
When I looked at those 16 players that we had the standings, you wouldn't be thinking players like Greensheep, like Jambray, like Cipher could even be there at 0-2, right. But because of wins that like Pyman was able to get over Jambray, that's why we do see these results coming through. But we'll talk about Cipher a little bit then as well. Of course, Season 1, he looked absolutely dominant in group stages, got to those finals, got to the grand final.
He must have thought he'd won the final.
And then lost 2 best-of-7s. Absolutely crazy that he was able to...
And he was like, I don't remember exactly because I had to do something else that day, but he was like 3-1 up in the first best-of-7 as well. And then he lost, and it was winner's advantage, so he had to play again, and he lost again, and he's not quite done the same since in any league since then.
No, I wonder whether that was really a turning point. But okay, predictions then. We spoke a little bit about the players. Where do you see this one heading for?
Cipher's going to hate me if he ever bumps into me anyway, but I think that Greensheep has really turned the corner again, as you've been saying, the bit of a lull, but I think that he's just getting that extra few percent reason. I think Greensheep takes this, and I think he takes it easily.
Easily? So you're thinking like a 3-0?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go for Cipher. Because... Why not?
Because you're 3-2 down.
Because I'll disagree with you again. It didn't work out when I said Jambray, but you know, I'd like to make things a little bit spicy.
Spicy
here in the Premiership studios. Let's see what decks were banned. Drum roll, please.
Wow.
Who'd have thought? At least next week we're going to get something exciting and crazy, and we won't be able to predict it, but Warriors will be take out again, leaving Shaman, Rogue, and Druid for Greensheep, and Druid, Mage, and Shaman for Cipher. Now, I'm going to ask you again, Mage, what do we think is going to be? Do you think Reno Mage? Because there isn't the Warrior being left.
Tempo Mage.
You think it's going to be Tempo Mage?
I think if you bring Druid, you bring Tempo Mage.
Yeah.
Just same sort of deal, just pick on the aggro, on the control stuff.
And Tempo Mage, again, it fell out of favour. It wasn't really in the meta, and then I've seen in a lot of like rankings and tier list rankings, of course this is ladder rankings, it's starting to creep up there a bit, but the deck hasn't really changed. It's just every other deck around it has kind of developed.
It's what you're playing as well.
Yeah.
Like people suddenly started playing a lot of Pirate Warrior, so people played the Tempo Mage, and then Pirate Warrior dropped off just a tiny bit, but not a lot. So he brought the Reno Mage. Then Pirate Warrior dropped off a little bit, so it's just this constant. Why are words so difficult?
I
It's
don't
just
know,
this constant cycle of metagame, and currently it's changing rapidly because people are playing decks they're not going to be able to play again. So there's a lot of... Epiphany was talking to me about this the other day. I was complaining that everyone was playing like Dragon Priest and Dragon Warrior and Dragon. And I was like, what's happening? Why are these people doing this? He goes, it's their last chance. People who like dragons have only got 3 or 4 more days.
Poor Azadrake. I didn't want to see him go. He's going to
teach
disappear.
him, won't it?
It'll teach me?
You'll teach him.
You'll teach him for being so good and being in everyone's decks. The thing I'm looking at here in this matchup in particular is because we have Unguro coming in next week.
Yep.
And I said before the broadcast, well, during the broadcast I said, how important are these games? How are these players going to be able to cope when it comes to a new meta? You've got the difference of being at 0-2 here or 1-1. If you are 0-2 and you're going in, what, 4 days after the expansion's been released into a new meta, then that's an open playing field. You have no idea what's going to happen there.
Yeah, you just have to make the best deck, and you have to make it fast.
Well, here we go. The last game of the night, it's Cipher versus Greensheep, both Premiership veterans. Who's going to come out on top? It is going to be the Shaman for Cipher, and I believe it was the Rogue for Greensheep. I've just looked up, but I think, yeah, it was the Rogue, because I saw it backstab.
Rather different webcam experience, again, from Pyman and Leroy.
Just a little bit, a lot of focus. Probably... We have seen a little bit of emotion coming out from Cipher over the couple of seasons. He really picks and chooses when he gets...
He likes a little bit of BM just from time to time.
He knows when he wants to hold them and when to fold them.
Yeah. And when to walk away.
And when to walk away. That's the important thing. Remember that in life, kids. You can see there's a lot of...
I'm going to exercise that option right now.
Yeah, see you later, mate. A lot of spells in Greensheep's hand, which would be fantastic if he had an Edwin, but... No Edwin. We've not seen any crazy Edwins so far today.
No, we really haven't. The Edwin came out really late in the one time it was played earlier, and Yeah, we haven't seen a turn 1 10-10 or something like we saw about 4 times in the Bahamas. I'm sure we'll see it again before. Oh, perhaps we won't see it again before the end because maybe Edwin's not a thing in Ongoro.
Well,
because Rogue's kind of garbage. But we say that every time, right? Every time there's an expansion, we say Rogue's going to be kind of garbage, and then everyone plays Rogue and wins the World Championships with it. Every single World Championship has been won with Rogue in the lineup.
good statistic.
Thank you very much.
And Greensheep was one of the players that really developed this kind of aggressive rogue. I don't know if you remember leading up to the Bahamas and leading up to the qualification. I think actually during the qualification he brought a very aggressive rogue that had some interesting tech decisions in. A lot of course, the pyro element in it as well.
Greensheep there using his health as a resource, taking 3 damage on the nose because just to protect his 1-1 because next turn looks like nothing good is going to happen. So there's no problem for him there, eating 3, which is kind of odd against Shaman, you'd think. But just to protect every point of damage he can get because there might not be any more coming for some time. He's got one of those hands. Although Cold Blood Conceal is actually a lot of damage that Shamans might struggle to deal with.
Oh, and that's huge as well. I was going to say, do you go down the line of risking it? I guess he just thought, well, if it doesn't come out, it doesn't really matter. But able to take down that Azure Drake is absolutely massive. Auctioneer for Greensheep means that turn 6 starts to get a little bit juicy.
Plan. Gives him something to do. As long as turn 5 is anything. Like, obviously, ideally, you want a Tomb Pillager, but if you can just pick up something to do, even just an SI7 that he plays Bear or something like that, just to wait for the Auctioneer turn. He's managed to so far stop Cipher from getting going either, so yeah, Auctioneer into Chieftain might be a bit of fun on turn 6 into turn 7.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, you look at Rogue and you think, where are the big minions, the big hitting minions going to come out? It's actually a good pickup getting the Jade Chieftain. Just another 5/5 that you can drop on the board. There can be a little bit of a threat that is going to have to be something Cipher tries to deal with. Still not a threatening board from Cipher, but still nothing to play from Greensheep here either. Does have the option of perhaps using the Eviscerate to take down Tunnel Trog. Depends how much he's scared of it. But do you really want to waste that spell that you might be able to use in conjunction with the Auctioneer on turn 6?
Yeah, he was looking at Gadget Sand into Prep, into Conceal, but if you want to Gadget Sand Prep and Eviscerate, your Gadget Sand's sitting there waiting to be picked off. And if you're going to have him picked off, you need to clear the board. And you can't do that right now. Obviously, you can kill the 0-2 right now, re-dagger. And it's a really difficult decision. Otherwise, you're putting your life in your hands next turn. You've also got to actually... If you just eviscerate a Trog and bump into it with your face, are you really getting anywhere? I guess you are.
I guess you're dealing with what's in front of you right now, and
yeah,
it is the line that Greensheep's going to follow in the end.
Oh, I like this.
So he's actually gone for the Cold Blood.
Yeah, this is going to punch 10 damage to the face, or 5 damage to the face and clear the board. Is he? He's just leaving it up there, saying if you want to kill this, go for it.
Well, yeah, he killed the...
yeah.
Of course, killed the 0-2. Killed the totem, and then he's saying, well, you've got to deal with it. If you've got a Maelstrom Portal, then fine. I guess Cipher could Hammer of Twilight and then Deckhand. That seems like a pretty good way of dealing with this. But then you're leaving an open board, but I suppose you do have the 4 attack on your weapon. And I mean, we know how successful True Silver was, right? The True Silver Champion has always been such a successful weapon in Paladin when Paladin was at its rise, so I'm not entirely surprised that we have seen this inclusion of the Twilight Hammer come so late in the meta, to be honest.
So this is the turn. No, I agree with you entirely, actually. The Twilight Hammer, it is quite a lot. The more you add up the stats, the more it's surprising that it hasn't been in, but with the Spirit Claws being so busted for so long, it just didn't have a chance. Now, this is where we get the payoff for Greensheep. This is the turn he played towards on turn 5 when he used quite a lot of resources to buy himself some time, and that time he's intending to use the benefits from this Auctioneer and the time he just bought himself to use, but he hasn't got a single spell in hand. So even though he's concealed the Auctioneer, as it stands, that Auctioneer is just a 4/4 that can't be killed by anything.
And look at the amount of damage as well in the hand of Cipher. I mean, I'd be half tempted to roll a totem, try and get spell damage, and then put one of those spells to the face.
Yeah, I mean, if Greensheep would be dead by now. Let's not mess around here. If he'd been leaving things up, that Flame Tongue would have done so much work. Greensheep would either be dead or effectively dead by now.
Cipher setting himself up for lethal next turn. If there is no way and no taunts coming through, but we know there is one taunt in the hands of the Chieftain, but actually Chieftain's not going to be played. Yeah, not going to be played, and actually I think that is game.
I might get a backstab to kill the 4-2, and then
Even
something else to get something else.
Even if the 4-2 dies, he's just got lethal from hand, right?
Yeah, so far.
Jade Lightning, Lava Burst,
so
and...
far.
Well, you're being optimistic again, and it's worrying me, Neil.
Sorry, I will try and behave. And yep, that's going to be lethal. It's going to go 1-0 to Cipher.
Yes, it is indeed. Plenty of burst damage, and just that big old Edwin coming down a little bit too late for Greensheep, and Cipher will be relieved to get his first win on the board. Obviously losing 3-0 last week to Osher of all people. Who,
wow.
Well, no, but
wow.
it's someone that Cipher successfully defeated in previous seasons, and someone that he probably would have felt relatively comfortable against. But yeah, it was pretty harsh. I understand the wows now when I think about it.
Just
to
point out about Osher, he has qualified for this through 40 players or so every single time.
Yeah.
The top 4 have been re-invited. He's never made the top 4, as we've already said. He's been bottom both times. But each time he's qualified through a field of 30 or 40 players. So he's not really last out of 8. He's been last out of like 45.
And a lot of that qualification process has been Swiss.
8 out of 45, not last out of 40. That would be bad.
Swiss has played a big part in that qualification process throughout the 3 seasons. I think even though we didn't have, it just went to a double elimination bracket and group stages and whatnot, we had Swiss during the qualifications. Yeah. So maybe this is his season. But it's not about Osher, it's about Cipher and Greensheep. Cypher's gone 1-0 up and just has Mage and Druid left. And we're still deliberating what mages are going to be. I'm thinking just Reno. I think Cipher is one of these players that just plays it safe. I think Tempo is a little bit of a risk play, and from what I've seen of him over the past couple of seasons, he just says, I'm going to bring what I think is going to do well, and how I can pilot successfully, if you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He wants to eliminate as much risks as possible and make it in his hands rather than the game's hands.
Yeah, and obviously the Reno Mage is a very, very well-built, solid deck right now. It's still regarded by a lot of the pro players as a collection of bad cards that work well together. You know, each individual card in that deck, apart from maybe 6 or 7 of them, are kind of awful.
Yeah, well,
like when you take them, if you do the stats,
you take
game
them at face value. Yeah.
Obviously, when you got synergy, that's why you actually play the game, because otherwise the stats would be everyone would just play Dragon Priest.
And who do you think out of these two? I mean, I asked you. We didn't really get a chance to touch on it because we went into the game straight away. But who is going to be able to move on? Let's say Cipher goes 1-1 here.
Right.
Can you see him getting towards that final? Do you think this will be the boost that he needs? Is there any way that either of these players both make it? Is probably the real question that I'm going to ask you.
Yeah, I think, I mean, with there being 8 slots, I think 0-1, you've got 3 lives. I think you've got every chance of hanging in there. Obviously, because of the way it's panning out and we're getting a really strong collection of players in the 0-2 bracket, it's going to be a lot harder than it would, say, at a DreamHack or an Insomnia or somewhere like that, where you've got a Swiss bracket and a lot of locals. I mean, these guys are all similar in standard. There's a couple of different tiers of levels, but there's no garbage in this tournament.
Oh, for sure.
So it makes it a lot harder to go from 0-2 to 3-2.
So many of these players invest their heart and soul into this game, and that's the thing with Hearthstone. There are so many players that are competitive and that are trying their hardest to make a career out of it, trying to make a living out of it.
This is 2 of those guys.
It definitely is. Well, the Mistress of Mixtures comes down for Cipher early on.
Did you have another result, by the way, just while we're getting this first turn out of the way?
I believe I did. I think it was Ting Ting won 3-0 against Helix.
Yeah.
So that'll be a good result for him. A shame, really, for Helix, who looks like one of those players that we thought could surprise us.
Yeah, Helix is a very powerful Hearthstone player. I'm disappointed he's going 0-2, but I was always going to be disappointed about whoever went 0-2 pretty much in this lineup, because it's a lineup of people that I like to watch. But Helix is somebody who's not very well known. Got a very, very high legend finish last season. I know he was top 12 at one point, and he's somebody I'd like to see make his name, because he hasn't yet. But anyone who watches streams regularly knows who Helix is. He turns up in a lot of streams, offers a lot of advice, and is one of the good guys in the UK scene. I'm
also being told that the final result from the other game was Ben won 3-2, I believe, against Dan. 3-1, sorry, is the correct answer.
So that's Ben on 2-0, having beaten Boar last week.
Yeah.
Well done to Ben. So he's played a couple of leagues previously and been somewhere in the middle, but he's another guy who you don't really want to play in Swiss tournaments. And yeah, good for Ben going into that 2-0 bracket, which might be not only the safest place to be because you're nearly through, but the safest place to be because all the people we tipped to win it aren't in it.
Yeah, some of the best players are down there in 1-1 and maybe even 0-2. As both these players now are fighting to not be in that 0-2 spot. Doomsayer's going to come down for Cipher.
Yeah, it looks like
There is tools to deal with it, though.
There are indeed. He's lucky. He's not lucky, but he's got this Imp Gang boss and the Doomsayer, which of course means at least when the Doomsayer gets taken down, the Imp Gang boss is going to be a nuisance.
So there's no way he can successfully clear the whole board here.
No, there's not, because he hasn't got 4 mana. I was going to say yes, there is, but you can't cheat like that.
Can't just find an extra turn, unless you're playing Unguru.
Wow.
And then you can
Time Walk to Unguru.
Time Warp. I'm actually really looking forward to that card.
Until you lose to it, where you sit at your opponent cast and you go, alright, well, you just do what you like, I'm off to make a coffee.
Just playing 2 turns. I wonder if it ropes twice. I wonder if you get... Surely you must do.
Yeah, you should do.
Anyway, we'll find out next week.
That means you can rope for 3 minutes.
Ouch.
That's great.
New legend grind meta.
Oh, can you imagine the BM when people beat you with that card? And they know they've got you over the 2 turns and they can do 3 minutes of... Okay. I didn't just think of that. Nobody heard me.
No one heard it.
Okay, so Greensheep just doing what he can to clear up most of this board, protecting what is left of these Spirit Wolves.
Yeah, and he's just going to leave 1 imp on the board, which of course can deal with one of the Spirit Wolves, unfortunately for him. Has got Shadow Bolt to work with as well now, Cipher, but I guess what do you play in conjunction with that? You don't really want to be using the Sun Fury protecting this early on because it could be very impactful later just to protect your face if this Shaman does get a little bit out of control.
And what do you Shadow Bolt? I assume you Shadow Bolt the Flame Tongue. Of course, the 2/3 not that menacing, whereas this Flame Tongue, if you don't get rid of it now, it just becomes a nuisance for the rest of the game. If your opponent plays a 7/7, you can't Felfire, for instance.
It's a tough one. I mean, my immediate thought would be to get rid of the 4/3. Because it's not going to be threatening your face, but I suppose you have to be concerned about what could drop. You're completely right. I mean, the Felfire could be played if just Totem Golem is dropped or a Jade Lightning's used to the face.
But say they drop a 7/7, then you Felfire, they smash you for 7, you haven't got Reno in hand. Oh, cool, let's see where he goes. He's going to play it, and he is going to go with your play and kill off the Wolf.
And he will play the Protector as well, just to try and deal as much as he can with that Flame Tongue Totem.
That also sets up killing the 7/7.
Wow, there we go. See? Cipher thinks... Who'd have thought it? Cipher is actually a good player.
Oddly enough, for someone who's won this tournament of the best players in the UK, hi Lewis, then yeah, Cipher's actually a good player.
He is, indeed. He has Dirty Rat to work with. Dirty Rat's always scary as well against... I think I say that far too often. The Dirty Rat's just scary in general. It's one of those cards that
I mean,
can
to be
really
fair,
make or break
Dirty
the game.
Rats are scary.
They are
They
pretty
carry
scary.
all sorts of stuff.
Disease.
Yeah, it's gross.
But I mean, what are you really worried about pulling? I guess Flame Wreath Faceless is something you're going to be panicking about. Instead, now Greensheep is just going to be able to Lightning Bolt that one down and play a Totem Golem. And this is exactly what you were talking about. That 0/3 Flame Tongue Totem does become a little bit of a nuisance, and it begs the question of, do I play this Felfire Potion?
And if I don't play the Felfire Potion, what on earth do I do? Have I got time to play this Emperor Thorician? I'm never going to let you live that one down.
Lucky there's no record of me actually saying it.
No.
Oh, wait.
Luckily, nobody's watching. Oh, wait.
Oh, wait, indeed. And he isn't going to go for the Felfire Potion, so he is just going to say, well, this board isn't threatening enough just yet. Jade Lightning, plus, of course, the Totem can make short work of this Emperor.
Greensheep trying to work out what this represents, because now Twisting Nether could be on 7, for instance, so he won't want to overcommit because the board can just get wiped out. And Greensheep, of most people in the world, is one of the people who is more likely than most to leave up an Emperor, although it looks like he's trading. Yeah, that was an easy trade, so that works out nicely. He is somebody who isn't scared to just leave stuff hanging about and smash you in the face, though. But against a Reno deck, I guess you can't really do that.
And well remembered that he still had patches in the deck as well. I've seen so many players just forget when they play a pirate that late on. When it's not turn 1 patches, right. I mean, it genuinely happens. I mean, I've not seen it in much tournament play, I'm going to be honest, but it does happen from time to time.
It definitely does, especially, like you say, this late on where you just assume that you played a pirate on turn 1 or 2. Especially when you've had the ascendancy for the large part of the game, you just assume it was fine early.
But Greensheep on the ball, clearly
not
tracking his
writing
cards
sorry
as well.
signs.
No speech bubbles for him. He doesn't need them. Or maybe he does need him. He's currently 1-0 down. Maybe the speech bubble would really make the difference.
You can't rap with a speech bubble.
Well, did you see Greensheep's rap?
Exactly.
I mean, it was great. Moving swiftly on. I don't want to ever think about it ever again. Fellfire Potion will clean this board up tidily, but then that puts you on 14 HP. And do you dirty rat first here?
If you hit 7-7, you lose, but if you don't, yeah, I think Dirty Rat would have been okay actually.
I mean, he would have hit Higher Black 4, so I guess it would have wouldn't have been fantastic.
Who would have thought it? Cipher's actually a good player.
No, and it's what I spoke about. He doesn't take risks. He likes everything to be in his hands. So I'm quite surprised that Dirty Rat's even in this deck. Because he's one of those players that really doesn't want to take RNG risks. He will happily say, I'm going to play decks that really rely on my skill.
Yeah, which can be a strength and can be a weakness as well, obviously.
Definitely can.
Depending which way you want to go with that line of thought.
Because those risks can win you the games.
So, it's so dangerous here. I was thinking maybe you can Mountain Giant into Soulfire and just leave a 3/3 up on the other side.
Endless couriers. What's died? Could he take the Onyx Bishop? No.
Vaporize. He's got the 2/4 trade into the 2/2 if I remember the board state correctly. So he can put the Vaporize down and just blow up Aya.
Vaporize is good. Are you taking risk in the eyes of Cipher with a Vaporize?
What, if you blow up Aya?
No, but I mean, well, yeah,
it would be pandemonium.
That would be fantastic. That would be a good result. I wonder if he takes Voidwalker. I think Vaporize is too good not to take here, to be honest. Yep, he'll take it. He should play it. You just trade into the 2/2, play Vaporize, and there's Reno as well.
Everybody's favourite soon-to-be gone card. See you, Reno.
You sound slightly bitter.
No, I'm very sorry for him.
Oh, okay. I'm going to force you to play Wild. In a world of Grim Patrons and Reno Jacksons and all the things that once supported us.
Not
implosion as well.
Don't make me go near implosion.
Well, Greensheep, were we wondering what on earth this secret is? Okay, if you're in this position, what do you test for first, to be honest? Because usually you are in a position like this and you test for Vaporize, but you can't test for Vaporize right now.
I mean, it can be... He's chosen to take it, but nearly every single secret is good. Counterspell, Spellbender are good. They defend your face. Mirror is good because it copies the 7/7. Ice Block is astounding because it lets you get all the way down to 1 before playing your Reno. Ice Barrier is fine. Vaporize is fine. You've got no idea. You've just got to play and just play. Because if you try and play around everything, it's just going to go wrong. Greensheep just nodding like, yeah, that was one of the things that could happen.
Cipher waved goodbye as well to Aya there. And Greensheep obviously tested for Mirror Entity first. And now he's staring at, well, he doesn't know that he's staring up against a possible Reno coming down. And I guess it's for Cipher, when do you play it? At what point is the panic button? This looks like a pretty big panic button.
I'm pretty scared and I'm only watching.
But even with...
Oops, don't worry.
Okay. But that Soulfire is, of course, very handy, but there's a lot in your hand that you don't want to throw away. So you could Blast Crystal the 7/7, and then you could Soulfire the 0/3 to make this board slightly manageable.
Yeah, because if you play the Reno, you just eat 18 straight away, plus the weapon, plus the Jade. Kind of the situation I was talking about earlier, where actually you've got to get control of the board before dropping the Reno, otherwise it makes just no difference. So I think you have to Blast Crystal the 7/7. I was going to Dirty Rat to make sure there's no better target, like a surprise 9/9.
And that's actually pretty big for Cipher.
Yeah, and also this means it's going to eat 6 damage from the Rat, so playing the Reno's slightly better consideration now. But what it also means is he can Blast Crystal and doesn't have to Soulfire, which means he can maybe find a squeaky Cabal in here as well.
So you Cabal first in this instance, surely.
I think so, yeah.
And see what you get.
It depends if he's going to Soulfire or not, I guess.
I mean, it's such a risky Soulfire. And, as I've said, he doesn't like taking risks. Instead, he likes to be rich. So he's going to Soulfire after playing Reno Jackson, and he gets rid of Jiraxis. I guess
so he's going to eat a lot of damage this turn, but then the Blast Crystal is going to tidy up the board for him next turn. He knows there's no minion in hand because of the Dirty Rat, and he's decided, you know what, this 4/4 and 3/3 are not getting it done after my Blast Crystal.
And these Jade Golems are starting to get a little bit threatening as well. Starting to get bigger. Starting to get more worrying for Cipher. We've not seen that Twisting Nether just yet, which might be the saving grace for him.
Yeah, and he'll have played that out to some degree as well. He knows if he can clear one more board, then this game is probably going his way.
I wonder.
And the Courier is often surprising. There's a decent chance of getting Kazakus from it, for instance.
Yep.
A serious non-zero chance of that, and obviously a whole bunch of other good stuff. Like Discover is just a good mechanic for you. But Greensheep, rather than delivering face damage, is just tidying up this board and saying, okay, you've got to Nether or you're going to eat everything. Right on cue, good boy.
There's Mr. Kazakus himself. Would you play the Courier first and maybe look for...
I think you have to Kazakus first and probably go for a 5. Although a 5 only gets rid of... Yeah, you might be right. Because a 5 only does 4 damage.
Does 4 damage, and maybe you could get a deal 5 damage as well, and you could clear everything but 1, so you'd leave a 5-1 on board.
Yeah, maybe you Kazakus...
You could Courier and search for a Blizzard.
Let's see what he goes for here. Because you can also go for a 10 and Blast Crystal the Flame Wreath and then see if the 10 gets him out of trouble. Rather than panicking immediately, not actually doing a great deal.
Yeah, I think...
But the 10 would have to be good.
It would have to be good, but I mean, 10s are usually good.
That's because they... Yeah, exactly. They cost 10 for a reason. Good
but I guess if he gets something like Revive 3 minions, he's going to go for a 5 instead. And it doesn't look like he's...
He didn't take sheep because blub things.
Yeah, not the best potion for him. Does mean he can get a little bit more armor though. Summon 2 friendly minions and gain 7 armor.
So he didn't play the Bruiser. Oh, he had no mana. That's why. Seems a good excuse.
Usually mana helps. So just a little bit of damage now coming from Greensheep, and you can see he's got Lava Burst as well. So a bit of burst in the hand. I mean, what's he considering? He's just thinking, do I need to trade? He's not seen his Shadow Flame yet.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually.
So something like a Shadow Flame into Demon Wrath could be absolutely detrimental.
Something like a Mortal Coil, or a Mortal Coil specifically, would have killed a 3-1 and not helped. That's not really enough. Oh,
I think you Courier first, and you look for some options here. You can play the Kazakus potion, you summon 2 minions, you don't know what they're going to be anyway. You could get Dirty Rat back alive, for example, that's 2/6 taunt, and you're going to gain 7 armor, so it keeps you alive.
Looking at it from Greensheep's point of view, that Lava Burst is sitting there thinking, you know what, at some point I'm winning. Especially with the Tunnel Trog in hand and the Portal. Cipher's got a lot of work to do here. He's just going to gain the armor by the look of it. You can tell he doesn't like any of these options.
Which would you say is the least risky one? Because I think that's where Cipher's going.
Courier and Bruiser, I think, is slightly less risky. Because the armor just delays things. It doesn't really deal with the problem of you getting punched in the mouth.
Hello.
That does.
Hello, Mind Control Tech. I'll have a 5/5, thank you very much.
And who's optimistic now, man? I like my optimism.
So he's going to play the Kazakus potion first.
Yeah, just make sure Doomsayer doesn't come out. I can't believe it's been played.
There's a Doomsayer. That changes things ever so slightly. So we will play the Bruiser instead with the Doomsayer coming out, and that Doomsayer effectively being a 0/7 taunt, really, because Greensheep is going to have to deal with it.
He can't just win, right? No, he can't. There's too much to do.
Too much to do, but he
can
does
Lava
have
Burst and Portal and all sorts of nasty stuff.
Yeah, I like... oh, Bloodtail Corsair as well. Maelstrom Portal... No, I actually preferred just playing Lava Burst and Maelstrom Portal rather than the Azure there, perhaps, but this way also works. You just have to take down his 5/5 to a 5/1 whilst doing so, unless he, of course, uses the Lava Burst to eliminate minions as well, but I'd like to think he will use that for face damage as a possible
Yeah, that's what he's trying
finisher.
to do. He's trying to defend that. I mean, that's currently doing 7 damage to face. This is setting up lethal, probably. I haven't counted it, but it's got to be close.
He's going to sacrifice his 4/4 rather than the 5/5 Golem as well.
I think it's 1 off lethal next turn, so I think we'll see him put the Trog down here.
Yep, he'll be counting it up. And then Cipher's out, really. I mean, we're looking at that Courier. The Mind Control Tech seems too much of a risk. Corruption's not going to do much either. You Courier here, surely. Well, I've been saying it every turn, but I mean, I'm trying to think of what you're
Courier
searching
into
for.
Abyssal, but you might want to Abyssal first. That's probably the decision. and not blow your courier up and then just use your courier card the turn after. Abyssal deals with quite a lot of the mess here.
Yeah, it just leaves the 5/5 and the 4/4 on the board.
Which is 9, you take 3 yourself, which is 12, you're on 19. The Lava Burst kills you if he rolls spell damage. Ouch. Oh dear, so that plan's not the best. So maybe Mind Control tech, steal the 4/4, then play Abyssal and win the game.
Easy, right?
Yeah.
That's how it works.
That might actually be the best line. That's what he's spending so long about, because the Courier should get you a good card, but it needs to be very, very good right now. Whereas this is actually a 2 in 7 chance of being pretty good.
Well, it's not that great in the end. And as you said, now a chance for Greensheep. Well, Lava Burst off the top. That'll make it easy peasy. And he'll tie this one up 1-1. So Cipher tries his hardest to stay in that one. Even with a Reno Jackson, Greensheep still manages to fire 60 damage. Well, actually, kind of 60 damage. I think it was more like 45. I think he healed up from about 15. But either way, Greensheep's back in the game.
1-1
Yeah.
between two of the more solid long-term pros in the whole of the league.
Some of the best players in the UK. I am not adverse to saying that. I think they've been around in the scene for a long time. They've been performing exceptionally well in several tournaments. Well, I can't even name the amount of tournaments that they've performed.
We'll just go
well in.
World Championships, Winter Championships, that'll do me.
Yeah, enough
And
for
then
these guys.
Cypher's had very good finishes over the years as well in various tournaments.
And of course, Cypher's teammate Jackie going to be representing the UK at the Global Games, so that'll be an interesting one, and he'll be back.
Yeah,
his
I'm
teammate.
sure that Cipher will have something to add to that as well. I'm sure that Jackie will come to Cipher for some help. I think the whole of the UK will be helping each other for that one.
Yeah, I think we'll all be behind the boys, but we're moving on into game number 3. Mage still left, and Druid still left, of course, still for Cipher, and Rogue and Druid now for Greensheep. And this is one of the situations where we could quite possibly see a Druid mirror. Well, it's like I predicted it.
Oh my goodness!
I'm like a genius.
We've
or
only
something.
been here for 4 hours and you got something right already.
Yes!
Well done, Dan.
I can go home a happy man. But these are games that can win or make or break a series, to be honest. These mirrors, and you just need to get that early control, really get that ramp nice and early. 2 innovates in the hand of Greensheep.
Yeah, this matchup's interesting because when you mulligan it, a lot of the ways to mulligan is just look for the word Jade. If your card doesn't say the word Jade on it, get rid of it. Even if it's really good, like Wild Growth, you've still got to consider strongly just looking for this Jade start, because whoever gets the Jade start tends to win. This is assuming that Greensheep is playing Jades.
This is true. I mean,
This looks a very rampy sort of keep.
it does. And if we're playing the Jade game, as you just said, then Cipher is currently winning that
Coin
already.
into Jade Blossom. See, Wild Growth in this matchup, assuming it's a mirror, which he has to, we don't know for sure. This means that he can just start making these Jades, get out of control, and if you're even one step ahead, your 7/7 kills their 6/6. Repeat. You end up with a bunch of 7/1s and 8/1s, and you've just won the game.
And it's basically who can force the removal first, really. So many times in this matchup, I've seen the Jades come out earlier from one person, and then the swipes are trying to remove them. You then leave an empty board, and then another Jade comes in, and you try and remove it with a mulch, and then more Jades come through, and you're completely right. It's just building the Jades, and Cipher definitely has that advantage at the moment. Greensheep's just going to continue to ramp up, does have Innovate to work with as well, so it looks like he'll play.
Now, if Cipher draws a Behemoth, I think we'll see him play the Spirit, not the Azure Drake. But if he doesn't, I think we might see the Azure Drake played to conserve mana. But if he draws the Behemoth and just keeps the Jade Pain coming, oh, never mind, just draw a 5-drop.
Yeah, Druid of the Claw again, another decision that we've seen some people make already today, having it in their decks. It's kind of gone in and out of Druid in general. It's kind of if you think of Druid of the Claw is just one of those cards that has always been there or thereabouts. It's dipped in and out of the meta when and whereabouts it needed to be honest.
Sign of a good balanced card. If a card's sometimes played and sometimes it isn't, it means they've probably got it about right and it should stay around for a long time.
More Jades possibly for Cipher here. Is a relatively... I guess you could easily deal with this board by taking down the Behemoth with the board that you've got in front of you. You could Hero Power, take down the 1/1, and then just play a Jade Spirit.
You definitely can do those things.
Or you could just swipe. Swiping's fine too.
Interestingly, he's chosen not to get the Azure Drakes down, searching for more Jade, because he is now only 1 ahead in the Jade race. And he's had to take this turn to tidy up, so if Greensheep can draw his other Jade stuff now, he could actually take the lead here. I'm taking lead as in bigger Jades. That's my definition for this whole game.
But I was saying about removal, but Cipher's actually the first one to really remove to really use removal here, but he's kept something on the board. I think that's the important factor
Right.
here. Now Greensheep, it looks like I think he's going to search. Yep, he's going to search for more cards and just play Jade Spirit here. He's got Innovate into... Oh, he could have...
Wasn't tempted by his Auctioneer either that turn.
Could have innovated into Wrath Living Roots to really take this down. This Druid of the Claw, but instead he thought against it.
So, loads of choices again for Cipher. He can Azure Drake Feral Rage, that uses his mana efficiently. He can Fandral Feral Rage, which uses Fandral efficiently. Or he can Jade and Fandral, which uses his Jade looking to draw into another Jade next turn.
So he's just going to play Fandral, but he's not going to use the Feral Rage alongside it. But it's still protected by that Taunt. It's something that Greensheep will want to remove immediately.
Yep.
So effectively it is a Taunt of his own. It's basically a 3/5 Taunt, usually Fandral when it's on the board.
Yeah, I mean, that has to be dealt with as well as the other taunt. So there's going to be another turn where Greensheep doesn't get to populate the board with much while he's busy dealing with Cipher's issues. And Cipher then gets to play Azure Drake if he whiffs on the draw and try and draw another Jade.
Azure Drake would have been big for Greensheep there.
Yeah, and this is where, again, what Cipher did makes this difficult for Greensheep, because he may have enough mana using the Innovate, but he's made this Jade really difficult for Greensheep to put on the board.
He has, and it's always difficult in this situation when you are behind and you're thinking, well, how on earth am I going to get back into this game? Yes, okay, I can keep using my removal. I can start chipping away at his board, but he's just going to keep piling more on.
Yep.
So you have to make that decision of, do I just put what I can on the board and not play the trading game? But then you're looking at 19 health already, and you're immediately worried about things like Feral Rage swipes coming through to just finish you off.
On the other side as well, Greensheep does have a massive hand, especially if you count the Auctioneer as, you know, extra cards. Compared to Cipher, he has got the Azure Drakes, which are powerful, but Greensheep may be thinking if he can just weather this storm, he can turn it around with just by pure hand size. So really interesting balance of tempo versus value going on here, and it's very, very closely balanced.
So both those innovates that Greensheep started with have come into play now. He evens up this board. What comes out of this Azure Drake is going to be really big for Cipher as well. Something JD would be good. Well,
That's
there you go.
JD.
That's pretty JD for me. Shady JD.
Shady JD.
That's what I'm going to call her now. New nickname. On the streets.
New nickname on the streets.
I mean,
Hey, Shady JD. You'd find a golem in your house.
Oh, there's more Jade stuff
Golem's
as well.
head in your bed when you got home.
Oh, please no. That's terrifying. I'll know it's you as well. That's the worrying part. Jade Idol, I mean, surely you just put that Jade Idol on the board, or do you hero power and just take down the 2/1? What do you think is more important here, Lorinda?
He's going to have to look to his next turn and see if he can afford to play it with Iron next turn. I think we're just going to see him play the Jade Idol. It's really close, but if he trades and plays the Jade Idol, he has something bigger than a 2/2. If he uses the hero power, he only has a 2/2. So I think we see him use the Jade Idol.
Yep. I like that decision. And now, next turn, he just plays an Aya Blackpool. He's got Feral Rage to deal with something that Greensheep might put on the board as well, and it's going to be the Auctioneer that he decides to put down, plus spells to work with to draw for him.
Yeah, so let's see if he can get good things. Mulch might be a good thing. It might be something that helps him level up later when the Jades get completely crazy. But I think Aya is just going to start to be the beginning of the end. It's nowhere near the actual end. This can turn on its head, like you said. And here's a decision that Cipher's got to make.
This is something we touched on earlier as well in the broadcast. We said, do you cycle these or do you just summon it? And yeah, of course, in this situation...
His Fandral has gone, so it's a much easier decision to just stick it on the board. If you've still got Fandral in your deck, sometimes you can delay that decision, but look at the tempo you've gained now. Yeah,
there's no way back for Greensheep in this situation, to be honest. Druid really struggles with its removal. Yes, okay, you've got the mulch to work with. Of course, that Ancient of War is going to be able to delay things ever so slightly, but I'm really struggling to see how Greensheep gets back into this game.
Yeah, I mean, Cipher can put Greensheep to 3. Greensheep's going to need... First of all, he's going to need to just not die, which is what this mulch is about, and then he's going to have to survive this Azure Drake not drawing. He's going to have to survive the mulch not being good, and then he's going to have to actually get nourished. He's going to have to get some health gain from a Feral Rage. Have I said enough ifs yet? Because I think I've run out of ways to defend sheep here.
Ifs and buts and whats and nots. But Jade Blossom comes down as well to just put more sad thoughts in Greensheep's mind as he looks afar into the distance.
Yeah, Shady JD's going to trade into this 5/10 to become an 8/8. Seems like a bit of an upgrade.
See, that's why she's shady. Because she just pops out Jade Golems here, there, and everywhere.
pretty shady.
It is pretty shady.
That's all I got.
It's game over. Greensheep is going to fall. It's going to be 2-1 to Cipher, so after going 1-0 down, he's right back into this series and has the chance of kind of making up for his 3-0 loss to Osher last week, to be honest. And Greensheep will be kind of a little bit aggravated, I feel. Yes,
Jaded.
okay. For God's sake. I mean, you just catch me out sometimes, and I'm trying to be serious, and then you throw that at me. You throw a curveball, but I like it. He's going to be a little bit aggravated, or a little bit jaded, because he missed week 1 because he was out in the Bahamas.
Yep.
I think everyone will accept that's a perfectly reasonable excuse to miss week 1. But then he comes back and he has to play Cipher. He's probably looking at the list and thinking, okay...
Oh, yeah, week 1 I'm going to lose, but Swiss, I should be playing somebody who I fancy my chances against.
Someone who perhaps wasn't in the Premiership last season or the season before, who isn't as well known. Instead, he has to face off against Cipher, and now he finds himself 2-1 down with Rogue and Druid left. And I said that the Druid mirror can sometimes be so important. We just have that mage left for Cipher, and we've been...
And I've changed my mind.
Oh, God. What is it now?
I don't know. Just...
Oh, you're not going to tell me? You're going to wait until you see
mage.
it?
Yeah,
when you see it, you'll be like, oh, yeah, I knew it was going to be Tempo Mage. That's a very Lorinda thing to do.
Hey.
I'm on to you. I know what you're like. You're one of these shady JDs that just come through and...
Just turn into an 8-8.
These predictions. But, okay, I think it's going to be Arena Mage, to be honest. What's it going to be?
Reno Mage.
Ha!
Okay,
Let me guess.
I didn't
You
get it
change your
right.
mind? No, okay, yeah, I didn't think so. Okay, Reno Mage against Rogue then. Any personal opinions on this matchup?
Reno Mage is a bit slow.
It is.
The Rogue... I said this earlier about the Rogue versus the Warlock matchup. The Rogue kind of has to win twice. Sometimes the Rogue can just go out of control and do the thing you said where you've got the big questing, the big Edwin, conceal both, good luck Mage. You can't polymorph both of those bad boys.
Yep.
Or sometimes you can just get one of those minions to do a lot of damage, or even none of them, just hit them with Tomb Pillages like we can see here. Get the Reno down to... I'm confused because this is a Warlock. Get the Reno down to...
That is a Warlock. Well, it looks like it's a Reno Lock, not a Reno Mage.
So this Reno Mage using Warlock cards is definitely better. Imagine if you could tap as Mage.
Okay, so confirmation that it is a legal deck choice. Don't panic, everyone at home. He did actually submit a Reno Lock, not a Reno Mage. We apologise for that error. So instead, forget Reno Mage. We were talking about Reno Mage for so long, and there was a blooming Warlock on the screen. That's hilarious. Anyway, okay, Reno Lock.
Don't touch me!
Reno Lock,
tried to kill me, guys.
This is a tough matchup.
Yeah,
he does have the Reno Jackson to work with, but as you were quite rightly saying,
luckily, all the things I said are fairly similar to what I was going to say.
You were comparing it to Reno Lock, so credit to you.
Oddly enough.
I'm glad you spotted that. I wonder how long it would have taken me to spot it. But anyway.
We should let you go. Just
Should
next
let me
week.
go,
Anyway, so it's the same sort of deal. He has to... He does have the plan A, which is just thump you until you die from it. And with this hand, it's a thing that he can definitely go for. He's got the Cold Blood Conceal next turn, and that might just be enough. But if he does... The choice is to not go too all in, and then later on you can go Questing Adventure and do it all again. So, Corruption on the Edwin. Pretty heads up now because he knows he loses to, say, Cold Blood Conceal. How good is Questing Backstab here? Is it enough to set up lethal?
Questing Backstab. Go
Cold
face with
Blood.
everything Cold Blood. Of course, Edwin dies.
So he does 9, which puts you down to 14. If you play Questing Conceal, you lose to Hellfire. You just lose to Hellfire.
Give me a quest.
We see no Hellfire. We do see a Mind Control tech, and we see a Foulfire potion.
Now you don't lose to Hellfire because you've got it out of range.
There we go. Edwin, of course, dies. But he's got a Conceal. Already got... What's that going to be? That's going to be 7, 8 damage.
It's going to be like 9 next turn, plus the 1 health minions, and there's actually no... Is there a Taunt in hand? Is there removal in hand?
Nope.
This is just GG.
He can tap and look for any hope. I mean, Demon Wrath, not going to do it either. I don't think. So yeah, this is it's going to be Greensheep finding his way back into the series in a very quick and commanding fashion, and that's what can happen with Reno Lock against Rogue, because Rogue can just spiral out of control like this. The Cold Blood will be able to finish it off, and we're into another Game 5, and we spent all this time thinking about Reno Mages, but it's going to be the Reno Lock that's actually going to be the last deck for Cipher up against Greensheep, who now is on his final deck as well. So, I mean, that was a quick one. How quick was that? That was
5 turns.
about 3 seconds.
3 seconds.
Yeah.
That's a fast game of Hearthstone.
3 seconds is a really long time if you're silent. Ready?
What an awkward cast.
See?
Yeah, that's
exactly.
so bad.
That's how long that game was. Pretty short.
3 seconds, guys. The amount of time a caster should never be quiet for.
Have you ever seen that thing? A couple of casters did a competition where they tried to see who could stay quiet the longest.
How did that end?
It ended with production screaming in their ears.
So if we do that, I win.
You'll probably win because
you're the one who gets it in the ear.
I'll definitely get it in the ear. Well, Rogue is going to be the last match. It's going to be the last match. It's going to be the last deck for Greensheep. No, it's not. It's going to be Druid. I mean, it's just the colours here. They look a little bit different. But yeah, it's going to be Druid is the last one, and then it's going to be the Warlock, not the Mage. We'll get there in the end, Lorinda. It's been a long night. We've had a lot of Game 5s. We're going to another Game 5.
Looking
I'm
forward
stoked.
to this.
You pumped?
I am ready for this Hearthstone action, man.
I love trying to get you pumped. Because you're the most chilled out man that I know.
Really?
Yeah. You are. You're very chilled. You're relaxed. Very sarcastic. Very blunt. You're also
I
chilled.
can be blunt.
Would you not describe yourself as chilled?
No.
How chilled do you think these players are?
I think that Cipher's incredibly chilled.
Even after that
Oh, right now,
3
probably
second
not.
loss.
But Greensheep's always a bit sort of
On edge.
Yeah. just a little
rapping
bit.
and
Rapping.
relaxing.
Did you see Greensheep's stream when he did the rap?
No, but I saw the 4 clipped videos of each rap that he did and how many times he got it wrong. And it was great.
I was there, and everyone's sort of like, no, it's not ready yet. And he's like, I thought that one was good. And everyone's like,
No,
No.
do it again. Because
But-
everyone just wanted to see him do it again.
so
but then it went-
we're laughing,
we are.
and you
But-
can laugh,
Yeah,
but he's going to Hearthstone Global Games
he is.
because, in part, of getting his name out there by rapping.
I mean, it might have helped that he was at the Bahamas as well. And
I think the rap did it.
oh, okay. Well, there we go. I mean, Jackie
call me
Chan.
blunt.
Jackie Chan did a rap as well.
He
so
did
there
a
we go.
rap. It's a rap.
It is a rap. Well, let's finish this day off. Finish this series off. It's going to be the Arena Lock versus the Druid.
And it's not
Greensheep's-
Rogue versus Mage
No,
at
it's
all.
not.
Let's go.
Greensheep will have a little bit of ramp to work with. And now, do you ever play Doomsayer here? I guess, is that just a waste? I think you just tap, right? Yeah, okay, you just tap. Tools to work with for Cipher by tapping. He's just got a lot to do, but I'm looking and I'm saying, how does he deal with this? Do you risk going Shadow Bolt, Coin, Soulfire? How scared of you are you?
Well, A, you're terrified, but B, I think if you go down that route, you almost never win. What you're terrified of here is Nourish. If your opponent plays Nourish with that on the board, you lose the game on the spot. They end up with so much mana, so much cards, you can't keep up. Greensheep is just straight up bluffing here, but he's not straight up bluffing because Wrath becomes good.
Wrath does become good if there's something on the board that you can...
But one way
Wrath.
that you lose this game as the Druid is by letting the Warlock get the board early with their Gang Boss, with the Twilight Drake, those cards, the Mountain Giant. And sometimes you just take a beating and can't deal with it. And it might be that he's only playing 1 Mulch, which is fairly common. And Cipher has called, it's not a bluff as such, because this is going to get wrathed, but he has decided that what he would have given up to kill this Fandral was so much that, you know what, I'd rather just take the chance you don't have Nourish.
Yep. I think it was a decision he had to make, to be honest.
It's a fantastic decision.
And he's pulled a Jade Blossom out of nowhere as well. That's going to be a great draw for him. I mean, is he contemplating
Well, the
hero
problem
power?
here, yeah, because he knows that Warlocks do 4 damage really well, and they do 5 damage really badly. So killing this 1-1 is actually protecting his Fandral much, much more than it looks.
Well, Fandral still stands, and there's still no easy way for Cipher to deal with it as well.
Although he has a slightly better idea now that there isn't a Nourish. I think Greensheep would have just jammed a Nourish there and shut his eyes. So Cipher has the information now there's no Nourish, and there's not much on 6 that's going to terrify him. So he may actually just choose to ignore this for a while now. He definitely doesn't want to ignore it, but he's got the obvious that he can ignore it. Can Mind Control much later in the game help him? Sometimes you end up facelessing your opponent's big Jades, and sometimes it gets really close. If you can run them out of their taunt, you can finish it off. Mind Control on turn 17 on like a 12-12 Jade could just win him the game. But he goes
I understand, yeah,
the
I
cone.
completely understand where you're coming from as well, but I think if you get to that point where there are so many Jades on board that even stealing 1 might not make a difference. I mean, it could
what
sure.
tends to happen is you're twisting Nether.
Yeah.
And then they put down another Jade because you're both in top deck mode.
And that's when you steal
then you steal it and go, I don't care, I'm going to kill you next turn. I'm not saying that would have been the right call, just something that these games can end up that deep.
Definitely something that Cipher would have been considering.
For sure.
The Wrath will come out and still getting value from that Wrath as well because of the Fandral still being on board.
The Cone, by the way, does a very similar thing in that he can cone 3 huge Jades.
Stall the game.
And stall the game and then just Twilight, and then sort of twisting Nether into something else, into Doomsayer maybe. Buy a whole bunch of turns that way later. This is the longest a Fandral has ever sat on a board and somebody hasn't just lost, I think.
Still struggling to deal with it though. I mean, I guess you could Hellfire.
I think this is Hellfire time.
Yep.
When does Hellfire get better in this matchup? Like, it's just going to get progressively worse as the game goes on. So yeah, using it now, even though it doesn't get him the board, at least it clears stuff up at a time when it's still worth something.
And then just as he clears the board, Blackpool comes down. There's Shady JD once again, coming at it. Back at it again.
Shady JD, causing trouble wherever she goes.
I mean, this is still a relatively awkward turn. But I seem to be saying that a lot, but I guess, yeah, Sylvanas is...
Yeah, Aya will trigger first, which makes the Golem, which means that Sylvanas triggers second and steals the Golem. So the ordering works out okay for Cipher here. It means that Aya's temporarily less good.
Nourish is available for Greensheep now that Fandral's not apparent on the board.
And he's going to get it over. You want her to trigger on your side of the board.
Yeah.
You don't want her to end up getting stolen and not triggering, because that's going to cost you a whole point of Jade, which actually adds up to like 11 attack and 11 health or something later on in the game, if each of your Jades is one smaller.
And it will be the 2-2, so the better minion stolen, or at least for Greensheep, the worse for Cipher. Now he's got the Behemoth as well, to just continue putting the pressure on. Because he wants to be able to bait out something like a Twisting Nether relatively early, so that when he gets those big Jades later on, there is no way Cipher can deal with them.
He was happy to add the 1 mana for the Wild Growth. It's going to be active for only 1 turn. He could have held on to that and cycled it on turn 10, but he feels that next turn Azure Drake into Nourish, for instance, alongside other things he can do like Azure Drake, Jade Blossom, Hero Power, that extra 1 point is actually going to make a big difference when his hand is full of odd, basically odd costed cards, meaning that 10 is an important number.
Yeah, and he just wants to get out of control as quick as possible, build up these golems before Cipher can really make somewhat of a threatening board. Cipher's really struggled to have any sort of board presence, to be honest, from the get-go.
Yeah, and sometimes you look at Reno hands and just wonder, why does anyone ever play this? There's just not a card in his hand that looks particularly useful right now. And other times you look at it and think, why would you ever not play this deck?
Yeah. I mean, when you're playing against it and they seem to have an answer for everything, you're just like, oh god, Reno lock back at it again.
Yeah.
But then it seems like when you play it, those answers just don't come. And it's one of those decks that's really frustrating. I mean, it's similarly to playing Jade Druid sometimes, and Dragon Priest as well. If you don't draw those dragons, or if you don't draw your ramp, you can just get overrun.
And also, it's always worth bearing in mind how good these players are. You're losing to this guy because he's got a Soulfire and a Shadow Bolt that you may not have.
Yep.
Because I may have blown up the Fandral on turn 3 rather than letting it live for half an hour.
I think another important aspect of this game is there is no Reno currently for Cipher.
No Reno, and
has just drawn Jiraxxus, but it's whether that's going to come into play. I mean, if it was Reno Mage, I was going to say one of the points I was going to make earlier about Reno Mage is, of course, you've got the ice block that you can take down to 1, and then you can Reno up, and you don't have to worry about being taken down in 1 hit instantly. But it's not going to be the case. It's going to be Reno lock for Cipher, and he's just still searching for more, searching for some form of answers, and it's getting to the point where he's going to have to start using things like Siphon Soul, like Blast Crystal Potion, on minions that are really not worth using them. Yeah,
you want to Siphon Soul a 10-10 in this matchup, and he's, like you say, having to hang on in there as long as he can. He's probably got 1 more turn where he can afford to do silly things like just Shadow Bolt 4/4s, get some nice value that way. And Cipher has shown in the past he is a master at getting absolutely the maximum out of his cards, but the next thing he's going to have to do is siphon something, most likely.
Yeah, I mean, Greensheep has options here. Ancient of War, maybe chuck 1 more Jade down as well with the Jade Blossom because it fits well with the mana. Looks like he's actually just going to Shapeshift to take down the 3/1 and then summon Jade elsewhere.
I imagine
he's worried about building
Spirits.
too big a board, right? Because he's saying there's no point me committing too much because, of course, Twisting Nether can punish me. So instead he's going to stick with the 3 minions. Also doesn't want to commit because he knows mind control exists as well.
Yeah, just putting enough out there. Yeah, because he knows mind control exists.
It does. And, well, the mind control tech, but you know.
Just mind control also exists,
It
but
does.
Cipher doesn't have it.
He doesn't.
He's
He
got
didn't pick
Cone of
it.
Cold instead.
Went for Cone of Cold. And the Cone of Cold could prove to be absolutely fantastic.
It really could.
However, he really needs to get back into it soon for it to really make an impactful difference. Because slowly and surely, as the Jade Druid does, Greensheep is rolling away with this one.
Yeah, and Cipher will be thinking, I'm dead next turn from this point onwards. We can see that Greensheep only has 2 damage in hand, but Cypher's wondering, well, what are all these cards that Greensheep's holding on to? He'll assume that there's a swipe in hand somewhere as well as a living root. He'll be very scared of going below 10. Greensheep actually choosing to play the Jade Spirit here. This is the challenge. Have you got the Twisting Nether? If you have, next turn I'm going to dump all these 3s and 1s on you, and if you haven't, next turn I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, because his other option there was to play Auctioneer, right? And just cycle and get as much cards out as possible, but he doesn't need to. Yeah, this is it. He's asking the question, do you have Twisting Nether or not? He doesn't. He does have a Felfire potion. Felfire plus Cone of Cold actually does deal with this whole board.
It actually does.
But
it puts him down to 8, which would terrify Cipher from here.
Yeah, because...
So he'll want to taunt as well, and that doesn't look like a thing he can do. He has shown a good nose for when he's not dead and when to just take a chance. He managed to keep up the Fandor without taking too much nastiness from it. But this is looking really bleak for him. From his side, we can see actually he's probably not dead, but it isn't pleasant.
Yeah, I'm trying to think in any world, does he not play the Felfire? Does he, for example, as he's just hovered over Blast Crystal and Cone of Cold, just to try and delay it, not hit that panic button just yet?
That looks like what he's going to do. It buys him an extra turn for better Reno. It also means that his Jiraxxus, if he's forced into playing that, is a card that could heal him up a little bit as well. So getting as much as he dare out of these cards, because next turn he can Jiraxxus into Soulfire, but he was not expecting this, and Greensheep knows there's almost certainly not a Nether. He won't totally commit, but he'll commit more than lethal here.
There's one of the Fel Rages as well.
Have a bit of a party with his hand that he's been saving up for some time for this party.
And that's another 8 damage that can come from hand, with both Living Roots and a Fel Rage. So if the Felfire potion does come out, hate to say it, dead from hand. And he's going to be dead from board because the Felfire doesn't actually even deal with this 7/7 anymore.
Yeah, this is what this deck does when it wins. It just goes insane. And Reno Jackson isn't even enough here.
No.
I mean, it's enough, but it's not going to make any difference if it comes out.
Yeah, it feels like it's just going to delay the inevitable, and this was what we were discussing and what we were worried about.
Is that actually there now? Or is he one off? He's queued so many things, I'm not actually sure if he's managed to get the lethal here with the Fel Rage and the swipe, or he ran out of mana. I think he ran out of mana.
Yeah, he ran out of mana. He hasn't played the Fel yet. But he will drop Cipher down to just 3. That means the Felfire can't come through anyway. His only option really is to Jiraxxus plus Soulfire, but then he's still dead anyway, so he is just going to do the honourable thing and Soulfire himself. Greensheep will be the victor in this final series of the day, and Lorinda gets 4 out of 4 predictions right, I think. Credit to that man. I mean, I just disagreed with you to, like, you know, be political and try and look hipster, but...
You can go first if you want.
Oh, yeah, maybe.